It's Kamala. Presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has chosen Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate. The wait is over. Joe Biden picked her to be the vice presidential running mate, announced it today, tweeted out this statement: I have a great honor to announce I've picked Kamala, a fearless fighter for the little guy and one of the country's finest public servants, as my running mate. Kamala Harris, for her part, tweeted she was honored to join him today, saying Biden will help build up Americans. Jasmine, what else? A little background on Kamala.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, Kamala has been suspected as a front runner for a while, as a VP pick for a while. I know a lot of people thought that he might go with Suzanne Rice, but at the end of the day, he picked Kamala, and she will become the first woman of color to serve on a national ticket. Her background, for those of you who may not know, actually she is part African-American, and her mother is Southeast Asian. Both her parents are immigrants. Her mother came from India, her father's from Jamaica, and they came to the U.S. So she also has that as part of her mighty lineage. But she was the first woman to serve as California's Attorney General. She was sworn in as senator back in 2017. And she became the second African-American woman to hold the title. She unsuccessfully ran for the Democratic nomination. As you guys remember, the former San Francisco district attorney has long said her lifelong work is to fight injustice. She and Biden were at odds during the campaign, and she famously excoriated Biden for working with segregationists on busing in the 1970s.
Yeah, her nomination fulfills the plan. Biden had to appoint a person of color. In the wake of a nationwide discussion about racial inequality, Harris has put herself squarely on the forefront of criminal justice reform. Of course, it is a little more complicated than that. Harris has her own issues within the splintered Democratic Party. The Sacramento Bee points out, when calling herself the top cop of California, lots of activists in communities of color and progressives did not like her policies as a prosecutor. We will hear from Chip Yost in a minute with some more perspective on this. But what is Donald Trump saying? A little bit earlier, the president reacted to the news. Listen.
Well, she lied. I mean, she said things that were untrue. She is a person that's told many stories that weren't true. Well, she lied. I mean, she said things that were untrue.
Okay.
We have an issue with that clip?
Yep, that's the end of it there.
Okay.
Well, that pretty sums up how he feels. He thinks she lied and told some things that were untrue.
Yeah, I think that, we'll hear some more about this probably in the KTLA news at 6. But the historic choice is triggering a lot of reaction, not just from the president this afternoon. Orange County Bureau Chief Chip Yost has a bit more. Listen.
Yeah, good afternoon. Talked to a political professor about this choice, and while he said he was somewhat surprised after thinking about it, he said he thinks it makes a little sense. One interesting thing about this is some of the things that may have hurt Kamala Harris during the Democratic primaries may help her, he believes, when it comes to the general election as Joe Biden's vice presidential pick. You may remember that Harris, before becoming senator, was a district attorney in San Francisco, and as you heard in some of the stories earlier, also the attorney general. But it was during those stints that she came under fire during the Democratic primaries for how she handled certain issues involving prosecutors and cops. Here in Orange County in particular, she got a lot of criticism before she even ran for president during those presidential primaries about how she handled, or didn't handle, some say, the snitch scandal in Orange County. You may remember the snitch scandal. It happened during the trial of Scott DeCry. He is the man convicted in the massacre in Seal Beach that killed so many people. During that trial, the snitch scandal erupted. It was discovered that they had been using the jailhouse snitches had been used in a number of cases throughout the years. People were calling for Kamala Harris as Attorney General to take strong action. She never did, before moving on to bigger and better things. They thought that was reason alone she shouldn't be the pick in the Democratic primaries. Well, she wasn't the pick, got out of there pretty early, but now that she is going to be on the general election ticket, this professor we talked to thinks maybe her time as a prosecutor, attorney general prosecuting crime, may come to help her. Here's more from that professor we talked to.
I think that it's a good choice. Actually, after a couple of moments reflection, I was thinking about who's he going to lose with this choice? I mean, who are the people that are most likely to defect as a result of a vice presidential choice? It's usually not that many people to begin with. But to the extent there are those people, it's going to be people that are more further to the left. It's not going to be people that are independent in those swing states that are looking around at the news, looking around at protests and looting and other kinds of things that are going to turn them off. I think Kamala Harris is a good choice as far as those voters go. And I think he needs those voters in those states like Arizona, in those states like Michigan, in states like Wisconsin, where you've got a sizable Republican population that probably would vote for Biden if the circumstances were right.
Yeah, in short, the thinking is, are those folks who are really upset at her on the left about her police reform record really going to switch sides and go vote for Donald Trump? That's the kind of the argument going. But could she bring over some votes, some independents who maybe are in the middle, who may have been turned off if Biden picked a more progressive left-wing vice presidential pick, may have been turned off and gone over to Donald Trump. So is she going to be able to bring some of those voters in the middle over? We'll have to wait and see. But as you heard from the professor there, he thinks probably a good choice for Joe Biden. For now, reporting live in La Palma, I'm Chip Yost, KTLA 5 News.
Today, Biden gave this personal message about the historic choice. He said, back when Kamala was Attorney General, she worked closely with Beau, his son. I watched as they took on the big banks, lifted up working people, and protected women and kids from abuse. This is that second tweet, Robert. I was proud then, and I'm proud now to have her as my partner in this campaign. And by the way, the name Kamala Harris was trending on Twitter today. Kampala is the capital of Uganda and is not her name, but it is what the iPhone will auto-correct to if you type Kamala. More tonight, not about that, but I guess the actual news and maybe some of the other conversations being had and reactions tonight on the KTLA News at 6. But I got to ask, Jasmine, have you been looking on the internet? What are some of the reactions that you've seen? What do you think?
Yes, I have been looking on the internet. Interestingly, Kampala was also trending on Twitter, as was Maya Rudolph. If anyone watched SNL over the last 5 to 6 years, then you know that Maya has done some amazing impressions, one of which has been of Kamala back when she was a senator. She famously did it on the show several times, and even Kamala has commended Maya on her impersonation of her. So she was also trending on Twitter with people telling Maya that she's got to bring it back to SNL, because as you know, that's really what puts the show on the map. They get so many ratings during this political time of the year. And so I'm sure we're going to see Maya back on the show doing a lot of Kamala. I cannot wait for it.